Okay, I'm live now. I'm just waiting for people to turn up. It's cold out and I've got the heat hiked up, but I'm still cold. Why is that? The heat says it's the same. My heat's sort of the same every day, but on a cold day, it seems colder in here. I don't know why that is. Anyway. Okay. It's the little things that are annoying, isn't it? Hello. This is my regularly scheduled live on Thursday, February 29th. Pardon me. Pardon me. And just waiting for people to turn up. So, yeah, things are picking up here on Facebook. These lives are getting busy also. I used to be able to get to almost all the questions on here. Hi, Eva. Eva, I guess it would be. Yeah, but now it gets pretty busy on here on Facebook now. And the Instagram and the TikTok are really busy. So I do my best to get to as many questions as possible. Grandbaby's fine. She's just adorable. They just sent me a little video, or sent us all. We have like a group chat. Sent us a video of her trying to chat. You know, they're just so cute, right? And they change every single week because she's only like 7-8 weeks now. So, and they change constantly. So yeah, it's fun. Lots of fun. Okay, so what are your parents? Sorry, I'm yawning. Oh. Funny thing is, I yawn more when I had a good night's sleep last night. I tend to yawn more when I've had a good night's sleep. Why is that? I don't know. Anyway, okay, so what are your parenting questions? If you go on the link above, you can check out my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my big boot camp course, or you can hire me for coaching. So I'm still getting through all the emails. I should get to those tonight. Hoping to get to almost all the emails tonight. If I haven't answered your email, you're in a queue, so I'll get to yours in due time. How can I potty train my 3-year-old that refuses to get out of diapers? Check out my potty party course. There's a whole system in how I potty train both my kids. And yeah, check that out. It's in it's one of my mini toddler courses, how to potty train. It's called the Potty Party. I think that's what I called it. Can't remember. Anyway, it's a whole party, just you and your kid. And it's a messy party, but it's a party. How do you help your 5-year-old daughter when she says that her friends only do what they want? I would say so. Like, what do you mean? How do you help her? What do you mean help her? If my kids said something like that, I'd say, so? I'm not their mother. I would never defend myself. See, that's what you're saying. How do I defend myself against my 5-year-old daughter? Yeah, I'd just say, whatever. Who knows? Oh, well, lucky her. Okay. To speak her mind. I don't know what you mean by that. Kids can always speak their mind as long as they're respectful. It's like we're the same. We can all speak our own mind, but as long as you're respectful, you don't go out in public and yell at people and tantrum. And, you know, I mean, you can always speak your mind. You don't want to squelch that. You don't want to squelch your children's personality and their freedom of speech or whatever you want to call it. But they've got to learn to be respectful, just like we do. We go out in the world. You want us to be respectful too, right? So yeah, it's not a matter of squelching their voice or anything. And you don't want obedient soldiers. You want kids with high self-esteem and confidence. She's hesitant to tell her friend what she wants to do, to take turns and so on. Oh, I see. Okay. I don't know what to say to that because I don't know. I don't quite know because there's so many different directions I could go in. Yeah, does she have options of other friends? Like if her friend says, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'd say, well, actually, I want to do this, so I'm going to go off with another friend and do that. That's what I would have said. Yeah, no, you can go ahead and do that, but I don't want to. I'm going to go do this with that friend instead. So yeah, you know, and this is what I told my daughter. She never forgot this either. She still brings that up. She's 29 years old. When she was really young, I told her, never have one best friend. You can have several friends and you can have a best friend, but don't just have one best friend. Because if you get on the outs with that person, if they move away, if they have a sick day even, then you're stuck. So you want to, I always taught her to spread herself thin. You can still have a best friend, but make sure you've got lots of other friends too. So I made that mistake. I always kind of just wanted to have one best friend that you tell everything to, but big mistake, right? Like, yeah. Okay. I get asked this a lot. I keep telling people to, by the way, when people email me questions or in the comments when they ask me parenting questions, I don't like to just answer to one person. Like if it's a full blown, answering a parenting question, I'd rather they come in on a live and ask so I can answer and you can all benefit from it. So that's not just one person because I don't have time for that anyway. So, but yeah, I got asked this a lot recently. It just so happened a few people asked at the same time, what are my credentials? So if you're interested, it's one of those questions I love to answer. So if you're interested in that, then ask me. If not, I'm not going to waste your time with that. But yeah, it's one of those questions I say, come on alive and ask me there. How would you suggest dealing with a 4-year-old that doesn't want to leave fun events, parties, etc.? No tantrums, but whining. So what if they whine? That's okay. Allow them to express themselves. We never want to stop tantrums or whining or anything. They will eventually stop doing it because they'll learn it doesn't work. So obviously it bothers you. That's why they're doing it. They're 4 years old. Generally at that age, they only do what works. That says to me that it must work, it must get under your skin. And that's why they do it, because they think there's a chance that you won't leave. I also told my boys about the best friend thing. Yeah, it's a really good habit to spread yourself thinner with people. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, basically. That basket could get up and leave or get mad at you and not talk to you, Can the behavior board work for a bus driver? Lots of my clients use it in their marriage. And also some of them take it to work and use it with their staff. So it's just an accountability chart. You can use it with humor. You can say to your spouse even something like, hey, from now on, I want this to be your rule. What do you want from me? So I have lots of clients who have a behavior board with the kids and then they have a separate one for themselves. Okay. Okay, good one. This came from, I can't pronounce the name. Sorry, it's on YouTube. Can you give me some tips on body language while trying to be a leader for a teenager? Be very careful to never roll your eyes, to not look annoyed. Stuff like that is is an escalator with a teenager. They're watching you. Boy, if you roll your eyes at them or anything, they're going to get mad. So yeah, be very careful. If it's anything contentious, keep your voice very calm, non-emotional. And and then just have fun with them too. Like, remember, teenagers want to have fun too. Fun is a child's love language. Teenagers, I'm like that too. You make me laugh, I'll follow you anywhere. That's my weakness is humor. So, most teenagers are like that too. Not all of them. I've met some serious teenagers, not just cranky serious, but just they're not like humor isn't that important to them. They were usually raised in a more serious family. So I've met, some people, humor just isn't their thing. So, but it's unusual. Most teenagers like humor. So use humor with them. 4-year-old social and emotional delays, hurting friends at school. How can we help correct this? We aren't at school. If you have a child with social and emotional, I don't know what you mean by social delays. I don't know what you mean by that. Social and emotional delays. What does that mean? Did you just come up with that, or did a doctor say that? I don't know what you mean. If you'd have to hire me, because I don't know what you mean by that. I'd have to assess that situation. I can't help you because I don't really know what you mean by that. A really huge thing that's trending right now is talking. This just cracks me up. There's always something. Is talking about a child who has very sensitive. What's the word? Even babies are using it. Highly sensitive emotions or something like that. It's just a real term right now. There's all these things that come out making excuses for. I don't know how to explain it, but there's this real trend right now to call children ultra sensitive. Oh, they're just highly sensitive. So I don't know if that's what you're talking about, but yeah, I don't quite get. I'm not on that trend. I'll tell you that much. They're highly sensitive. Generally, children who are highly sensitive rarely have a leader for a parent, because leaders tend to calm children down and make them more confident. Highly sensitive sort of implies that they feel kind of lost. Does that make sense? Oh, you got a 2-year-old hitting? Check out my course, Toddlers Who Hit, Bite, etc. It'll lay out how you deal with that. But yeah, they're going to do that. They're just nuts, right? Can't make sense out of toddlers. I'll read out my 5 top tips for parenting toddlers. Just a sec here. Number 1, these are my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. Number 1, child-proof your home so you never have to say no. Number 2, set up a toy rotation system so they're never bored. Number 3 is when you want to connect with a toddler, you do so in their world. You don't take them to the nail salon with you. You go to the park and roll down the hill. They just look at you differently when you enter their world. It's part of your leadership skills. It's kind of the start of it. Number 4 is when you want to discipline a toddler. It's kind of similar. You do so in their world. They're not about words. They don't want these mini therapy sessions discussing all their big emotions. That's a bunch of garbage. I don't know who invented all that. But anyway, they're about consistent corrective actions, and they learn through repetition. And number 5 is stop trying to figure them out. They're not figure-outable. They're brand new, fresh human beings. They're just forming. They're crazy because they haven't developed sanity yet. They just haven't formed the ability to reason things out yet. Okay? So yeah. That's my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. Okay. My 5-year-old's disrespectful to other adults, like my grandfather, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So that's on you. Their behavior is a direct result of your parenting between the ages of 3 and 12 years old. If they're disrespectful to anybody, that's on you. They've learned that that's okay to do because you tolerate that. There's no way I would tolerate that. I would deal with that. They're 5 years old and they know they can get away with it. I don't know, it's just a very rude thing to allow a 5-year-old to do. You're not doing them any favors either. Check out my boot camp course. It sets you up as a leader, and that just doesn't happen. Kids with leaders aren't disrespectful. They just aren't. So check out my boot camp course. It's in the link above. Yeah, it's not the kid, it's you. Everyone wants me to fix the kid. It's nothing to do with the kids. It's you. You lead, they will follow. We don't fix kids. We teach parents. You lead, they will follow. Children who are acting out just lack leadership. That's all it is. That's all it is. It's that simple. But what about my child's different? He can't help himself. Yeah, he can. Now I've worked with hundreds of kids, troubled teenagers down to toddlers. I managed to get respect with all of them. Was it them? I just caught them on a good day all those thousands of times? Or was it me? Was it my leadership skills? Or I just lucked out every time I worked with these kids? And I never got easy kids to work with. They were always difficult, right? Challenging. So yeah, it's you. I'm fine tonight. I'm just, I'm cold. I don't know why. Yeah, I'm cold tonight. I'm really cold. I don't think I'm coming down with something. But anyway, can't say. I've got like so many layers on. I can barely put my arms down. If my 4-year-old's very shy, could it mean I'm not doing something right? Not necessarily. They just have different temperaments. They could just be overly cautious with other people. Yeah, I don't worry about shyness. That usually works itself out. Okay, someone asked, good question on YouTube. Are you planning any group coaching courses in the future? Yes, I am, but I can't talk about it yet. I actually am. One thing I just haven't figured out how to do it, mainly because I haven't got time. And the person that I work with, we got a lot on our plate right now with the business. But one thing I really want to do, and I don't know how exactly to do it, is I want you to see me working with other people. Like what I mean is, I want you to see that you're not alone. I want you to see I want you to see other parents, what they're going through. Coaching is different from anything else I do. It's very personal, and parents, they just let it fly. They tell me all what they're going through and everything. And I think everyone would benefit from that. So I got to figure that out. So it's, I'm obviously not going to air all my private coaching sessions. I don't do that, of course. But yeah, group coaching would be the way to go. I do find it's a little bit different. People don't tend to, I've done it before, people don't tend to let things fly quite as much when there are other parents around. But generally, as the time goes on, they do loosen up. So whereas with me, generally in session 1, they let everything fly out. But if it's just us. But yeah, I would love that. I would love you to see that you're not alone. Other parents are going through the exact same stuff you're going through. It's very rare that I get something different that I haven't seen or heard before. Something I hadn't heard before, which I've told you this a few times this week, was last week I had this family and they had an 8-year-old girl. And the first week, I think she liked the behavior board because, of course, the parents are on it too. Then in week 2, she decided she didn't like it anymore. And I always tell you to tell your children, look, we want to be better parents, so we've hired a parenting coach. It's a teacher for parents. So she's teaching us how to parent. And so she knew that they'd hired this woman, right? So she didn't want the behavior board anymore. I've never heard this before. She said to her parents, you guys are great parents. You don't need that lady. And then she tore the behavior board off the wall. I've never heard of a child buttering up her parents to get rid of me. Anyway, they put the behavior board back up. So, but pretty clever, right? I love that. Yeah, the parents and I had a good laugh over that one. I have 3 daughters. The middle child does not follow suit. Do they need to follow suit? Do they need to be soldiers all the same? Yeah. They're all have different personalities. I only have 2 kids, very different personalities. I used to torture my son, teasing him, because he's like me. We love being teased. And and we both laugh. My daughter doesn't like it. So I didn't do that with her. Like I'd hide under his bed and grab his ankles when he walked past. Mind you that it was payback when he was older because he got really good at that. And I couldn't complain about it. So he did it to me. So, and he was better at it than I was. But she didn't like it. So I never did that with her. They're all different. You got to parent them a little bit differently. But I was the same leader with them both, but I didn't, they're all different. Okay. Oh gosh, no. For behavior board with a 3-year-old, what behavior would you recommend putting on the board? For instance, not listening. Never, never, never put attitude on there. They're not listening because you're not a leader. You can't blame them for not listening. It's on you. It's all on you, okay? But you can get them to do something, like get them to put their dirty clothes in the hamper. Check it out. The behavior boards, it's kind of self-explanatory. Or you can check out the big boot camp course. That's just the behavior board on steroids, that's all. But it goes for 5 weeks. But yeah, that's on you. If they're not listening, that's on you. You got to fix yourself, not your kid, right? They're not going to listen to a non-leader. Why would they? I wouldn't. Yeah, why would they? So you got to earn that. So that's on you. Yeah, people are so quick to blame their kids for everything. It's all on you. They're just kids. They're just victims of our parenting. That's all, right? I was working with someone, it was quite a while ago now, and they said, I don't know what it was, but I can't remember. I wish I could remember. It was something very specific. What's wrong with my kid? He won't do this. And I said, I'd do that too if I had you as a parent, because they were yelling at him all the time. And they couldn't figure out why he was so rebellious. And I said, yeah, I'd do that too if you were yelling at me. So they didn't connect the dots. And then as soon as I said that, they went, oh, like, you see what I mean? Like, it's you. Your children's behavior is 100% a direct result of your parenting from the ages of 3 to 12 years old. Under 3, they're crazy. 13 and above, they're getting more independent. They're not, you don't want them to be, looking to you to please you all the time, which they will do between 3 and 12. But at teenagers, at the very most, they just don't want to disappoint you. But you want them to more please themselves because they have high self-esteem. They're their own leaders. That's what you want with teenagers. The only problem that parents have with teenagers is they don't adjust their parenting to the teen years. They still expect to be able to parent a 15-year-old the same way they parented a 9-year-old. You don't do that. You have to adjust your parenting. I'm going to read my top 3 tips for parenting teenagers. Just a sec. I don't know why. I know these by heart, but I don't know why. I always need the list in front of me. Okay, this is my top 3 tips for parenting teenagers. Number 1 is you listen to understand and show empathy. You don't listen to gather information to lecture with, or they will shut you out, and justifiably so. They're going to shut you right out. If you get really good at what I call silent listening, you just listen to understand, show empathy, they're going to tell you everything. And if they want your advice, they'll ask for it, so don't offer it. Number 2 is you negotiate pretty much everything. It's not a blanket statement, but it goes something like this. Hey, I want your dirty clothes in the hamper from now on. What do you want from me? Let's start the negotiations. And number 3 is don't sweat the small stuff with teenagers. Allow them to make mistakes just like you did and just like you do. It's okay to make mistakes. You don't want to punish them just for being human. So if they do something stupid and it's not a big deal, so you don't sweat the small stuff, the big stuff you do, okay? But if they do something and it's not a big deal, you just say something like this, well, that was stupid. Do you want to hear what I did when I was your age? And laugh it off. Like, we're all human. We all make mistakes, right? It's especially important with teenagers. Yeah. because they're out there. They're not under your wing as much. They're out there. They're going to make more mistakes as teenagers. But hopefully, if you're a good leader, they're not going to make big mistakes. What about us teachers trying to coach and support students with denial from parents? I like your child, but he cheats. Yeah, I don't teach teaching, so I don't know. Huge portion of my clients are teachers. Sympathy, I could not go on about enough what I have sympathy for you when you're dealing with kids, with parents who are defensive and in denial. It's difficult. Those parents are doing the best they know how, but they're in denial because they're blaming you for not being able to handle their children. They don't get it. They don't understand that it's their job to send well-behaved, respectful children to school, but rather these parents who don't know what they're doing and are very defensive, they tend to blame the school for how their kids are acting out. It's just what they do. They don't know what to do, so they just blame everybody else. They're never going to learn that way. I mean, they'll never hire me for sure. I mean, because that's the school's fault. There was a time when parents would have been humiliated to send an ill-behaved child to school because they had pride in their children's behavior. Nowadays, they blame the school if their child is ill-behaved. That's more the trend. Not everyone does it, but it's more the trend, and that's why teachers are quitting right, left, and center. So what a difficult job. Okay. This is Bianca on YouTube. How can I help my 5-year-old? When she gets angry at school, she throws toys and knocks chairs over, also hits. How can I help her deal with outbursts instead of throwing things? She's only doing what she usually can get away with. So it just says to me that she doesn't have a leader. Work on your leadership skills. When you are a really calm leader for your children, it tends to calm them right down. And they carry your leadership umbrella everywhere with them. How they are with you, they tend to be like that everywhere they go. It becomes their identity because their self-esteem is high. They like themselves when they're with a leader. They just naturally are drawn to you. So if she's acting like that at school, it says you're not a leader at home. Yeah, that's all that says. Check out my boot camp course. By the age of 3.5 to 4, they shouldn't still be having tantrums. Because if you're a leader, they're calming. They understand. They just stop having tantrums because they don't work. They tend to only do what works. So it says to me that kind of behavior must work at home. Feel bad for the teacher. Yeah, teachers, I've spent many, many hours in the back of classrooms supporting teachers just with the more challenging kids. And I wouldn't want to teach. I probably could have done it 40 years ago, but not now. Not the way parents are sending kids to school these days. They just, the behavior is just a challenge. And consistent corrective actions for over 3 months, not working, 3-year-old still hurts. Well, 3-year-old, that's the behavior board. That's not consistent corrective actions. That's the behavior board. So check that out. That's under the age of 3 is consistent corrective actions. And if stuff isn't working, when people hire me, they say, I've done everything you said. I often wonder why they hire me if they've done everything I say and it's not working. So they obviously know they're missing something. But often, you can't get everything in the behavior board or just from these videos. When people hire me for coaching, I'll point out, I go, that's why it's not working. There's something you're doing or something you're not doing. But that's a personal, I have to assess that. I have to figure that out. I can usually figure it out pretty quick. I do everything you say. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think so, because I know it works. So, yeah. I was working with someone, I think was it yesterday or the day before? Anyway, and they said, we've done everything you've said and it absolutely doesn't work. And I said, well, why'd you hire me? Just struck me as funny. They laughed. And sure enough, there was just one little thing they were doing that I said, that's why it's not working. Just one little tweak that we had to make pretty quickly. Okay. No one's asked about my credentials. That's something that came up a lot and I said, if anyone wants to know about my credentials, I don't answer questions one-on-one because I'm only serving one person when I do that. So I always say, ask it alive, because then I'm serving more people and then it's saved on YouTube forever, right? So yeah, no one's asked about that. No one's asked about that in a long time, actually. Just in the last couple of days, 2 or 3 people have asked. Like, I want to hire you, but I need to know your credentials. Well, ask me in a live, because I'm not just going to answer one person. It's a long answer. Oh, God, you're going to hate my answer. Do you have any tips on how to stop my almost 3-year-old from hitting our dog? Well, if they're almost 3, you maybe can put them on the behavior board, say no hurting the animal. or no hitting the dog. And if they do, anyway, you know what? If you can't protect an animal, a pet in the house, I would rehome it, even just temporarily for a while. But I would rehome a pet. I had a pet. My kids grew up with pets, and they knew that you just do not harm an animal. I mean, that was like the end of the world if they did. Believe me, that was a big deal because I'm a real animal lover. So I would protect an animal at any cost. Yeah. Like my kids knew you don't even, like even when you go past the bird cage, you don't yell at the bird. You know what I mean? Like even that, I taught them from very young, and they learned because I was a leader, so they knew, they respected that. What are your credentials? Okay, good. Thanks for asking. My credentials are I don't have any formal qualifications at all. I just have personal experience working with kids. It was all volunteer work. I've worked in many detention centers, homes. I got clearance from the government, schools, hospitals. And I started volunteering in daycare centers when I was 11 years old. I was always kind of meant to do this, right? And the daycare workers, I can remember I was 11 and they used to say, how do you do that? The kids love you, but they still respect you. They do whatever you say. And I didn't know how to answer that, but I was a leader even back then. And so I just always kind of knew how to figure kids out. I meet their needs and manage their wants. And I lead with fun. Fun is a child's love language. And humor is a teenager's love language too. Like if you're enjoying a teenager and you're laughing with them, they tend to respect you. Because I also have boundaries too. But anyway, I'll tell you a funny story. I decided I was going to be a child psychologist. I think I was 20. So I took a prerequisite course. I wanted to be a child psychologist. 1 week after the course started, they kicked me out. And I said, why? And they said, because you asked too many questions. What was happening was what they were teaching was garbage. They don't teach that now, I'm sure. It was just crap. It was this holier than thou trying to outsmart children. And it was this real authoritative. It was really about authority. And I hate that crap. It's so condescending. It was very patronizing. But the other students started asking me questions about kids too. So they couldn't get rid of me fast enough. Anyway, what I should have done is held out. And they would have paid me double if I wouldn't leave. So I should have held out, but I just got my money back on that. And then I realized, thank God I didn't do that because I never could have done what they were teaching anyway. It was just garbage. I'm sure they've come a long way now, but it was so condescending and so patronizing. You're always trying to outsmart children. I don't do that. I don't do that at all. Don't outsmart them. Lead. You don't outsmart them. You don't want them to think they're dumber than you. You know, like it's so patronizing. Anyway, then when I was mentoring troubled teenagers, they said, Lisa, you got to teach this stuff. No one's ever talked to us like you do. So they kind of told me to start teaching this and start a business. And then like 20 years later, I did. So, but yeah, there wasn't even such a thing as a parenting coach. It was really weird because I could have saved myself $5,000. Those teenagers were telling me to teach this. And then, and they were like, troubled teens. And then I took a, what's that called? When you're trying to assess what job you want to get, career counseling. $5,000 I spent on career counseling. It was 8 hours a day for 5 days. And it was intensive. And it came out really weird. They said there's usually 2 or 3 professions. All it says was teach parenting. And there was no talk of kids or parenting. None. It was really weird. Everything led to me teaching parenting. And I could have saved $5,000 if I just listened to those teenagers instead. But anyway, I kind of think I was just meant to do this. Now, I'm really bad at a lot of things, but I always just was able to connect with kids. I always found them quite easy. And so anyway, there you go. And huge portion of my clients have child development degrees and they still struggle with parenting. So I think it's something innate. Anyone can learn it though. I can teach it to anybody, but it is something I think I was just kind of born with. I really do, because I was doing it from 11 years old. But like I said, there's a whole bunch of stuff I'm really horrible at. We all have something that comes easy to us. Okay. How can I help my 8-year-old daughter not shut down and say things bad, call herself stupid when she's being corrected when trying to talk with her? Okay. That would say to me that she thinks doing a bad behavior makes her a bad kid. I always separate that. Bad actions are different from identity. Completely separate the identity from the actions. So anyway, check out my boot camp course that kind of explains this. You don't want the child to be associated with the bad behavior, if that makes any sense. Yeah, you're a great kid, but what you did sure was stupid. Like it's totally separate, right? They don't take it personally when you do that. They're able to do that. So yeah, set yourself up as a leader and their self-esteem skyrockets and they have confidence. They like themselves when you're a leader. Oops, what time is it? I got to go over to Instagram now. If you want to join me over there, it's Bratbusters Parenting. So check out the link above. You can get my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my big boot camp course, or you can check into my coaching. You can't do it automatically anymore. I'm really busy right now. You have to send me an email. Tell me why you want to work with me. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me. Happy parenting. Okay, Instagram. Done. Okay. Just waiting for people to turn up. Instagram's usually my busiest one. Hello. People on Instagram, it's weird. It's the only one where people turn up all in one clump. Can't figure that out. Anyway, okay. Yeah, I don't let people in on my lives. The reason is I did it once about 1.5 years ago, and they started, it was on TikTok. I got a big following over on TikTok, and they wanted my audience, and they started talking about their business. I got rid of them. So I was like getting rid of them so fast, you wouldn't believe it. So ever since then, I never let anyone in. I was just so surprised they did that. But, I was naive. I didn't know that people were going to do that. Okay, Crystal just purchased your tantrum course last night. Good for you. I hope that works really well for you. Be patient. It's not going to happen overnight. It's a slow burn. But you'll see. By the way, things usually get worse before they get better. Because if you're shaking things up and you're not reacting the way you were, if you were feeding a tantrum before, all of a sudden you stop feeding it, they're going to up it for a while. Okay, might be a week depending on the age. I don't know. Hello, advice for 4 to 5-year-olds that start telling little lies. Okay, put on the behavior board, no lying. Just call it like it is. They don't get caught up in all these semantics, and don't call it a lie, call it an untruth. I don't talk like that. Anyway, it's a lie. Say it like it is. No lying. And if they lie, there's a consequence. Easy. Just do it like that. Watching again from the Philippines again. Hello from the Philippines. Any advice for new toddler moms? No, just survive it. Toddlers are crazy, so there's not much I can do. Not much I can tell you. There's not really a great blanket statement for toddlers. You're starting your leadership skills, and remember, their love language is fun. So if you want to connect with a toddler, make sure you're fun. But you watch how they play and you join in. You don't go to the nail salon with a toddler to connect with them. You watch how they play and you join in. They just start to look at you differently. I've seen it. I've worked with tons of toddlers. If you just act silly like they are in that, they're all of a sudden they're looking at you more. And when they're looking at you like that, then you have more of an influence over them. Yeah, toddlers are, whenever I'm hired by someone who has older kids and toddlers, they never ask about the toddlers. If I ever say, oh, do you want to talk about the toddlers? They always say, nah, they're just crazy. So they already understand that. Once you've been through the toddler years, you go, oh, I get it. Their brain cells aren't really there yet. They're just forming. I always say they're crazy, but they just haven't developed sanity yet. They're just forming. They're brand new, fresh human beings. Imagine if you've only been in the world for 2 years, and one of those years you were a potato laying on a mattress. Really, what have you learned yet? Nothing. Advice on defiant 6-year-old boy, defies everything, not sure how to stop this cycle. Be a leader. They don't defy leaders. They just don't. There's no reason to defy a leader. Check out the boot camp course. That's 3 to 12 years old. It sets you up as a leader in 5 weeks, each week. And people say that they don't want to tick the completed box on that course because they think they can't get access to the course again. Yeah, you can. You can tick as you're going through the course, you can tick off, yeah, I did that section, I did that section, so you'll know. But anyway, yeah, you can always get back. It's evergreen, but you want to pay. I would look at the whole course as soon as I get it, read through the whole thing, watch all the videos, and then go back and methodically start week 1, week 2. Because what I've done is I've thrown a whole bunch of just random information about parenting in there. Each week, I've just thrown something else in there, and sex education, and I don't know, different things, so I've thrown all that in there, and how to handle allowance and how to handle chores. So I've thrown that in there. That's why you want to go through the whole course right away. Because I don't know what you're going to need. Everyone's different. You might not need to know about some of the stuff I throw in there. So anyway. At what age do you consider a tantrum versus an upset baby? Well, newborns can have tantrums. It can't. My son did. He had tantrums, and if he couldn't get on the boob right away, he would have a tantrum. Brand new. It wouldn't last that long. You know how they can't get on the boob and they're going like this, trying to get on. So he would just start screaming. So yeah, but you don't deal with a tantrum the same way with a newborn, obviously. At about 16 months, you start my tantrum, that silent, or that ignoring. It's a very specific way of ignoring a tantrum. Under that, you can use what I call indirect diversion. So it's like they're having a tantrum, you still ignore them, but you might go over on the couch and read their favorite book to yourself out loud. The idea is you are diverting, but it's indirect. You're not saying, come and read a book. You're just reading it out loud to yourself. The idea is they'll forget about the tantrum, come and crawl into your lap. But it's very important that you don't look upset when they're having a tantrum. If you do, they're going to keep doing it because it's working. That's what they're after. They want to upset you because they want to get their own way. So if you're upset, that's part of it. Like that's part of what they're after. Do you have courses for teachers? I'll never have courses for teachers because I don't know anything about teaching. I'm not a teacher. So it's very different. A lot of stuff does not cross over. That's why a huge portion of my clients are teachers. It's different. Like I couldn't teach, and a lot of them struggle with parenting. The thing is, I don't think that, like a lot of my clients, about 30 to 40% are teachers, daycare workers, principals, child psychologists, and they have all these degrees in kids, but parenting's personal. It's different. The other is business. It's just different. Parenting's a specialty, just like teaching is. So I would never be arrogant enough to think I could possibly teach anything about teaching. But I know a lot of teachers that use my methods and say they work. But you have to pick and choose what would work in the class. One really good thing that is really common that a lot of teachers use in school is a disaster at home, and it's the reward chart. Reward charts are great in classrooms because they don't take it personally because all the kids are on there. Right? Whereas at home, a reward chart is a disaster. A reward chart for good behavior, this is the message you're sending to your children as a parent at home. You're saying to them, you're normally rotten, but if you should happen to be good, you'll get a reward. You see, I don't reward for good behavior. It's a bad message to send to your children. It's like it's so unusual that you'll actually get rewarded for it. You see? It's a really bad message. Just started using your methods tonight. 3 and 4 autistic year-olds. 3 and 4 autistic. Yeah, I don't generally, like autism's a specialty, but a lot of these methods work with autistic children too. But if you really want results and you're really struggling, that would be one-on-one coaching. But a lot of it works anyway, right? Okay, you're going to hate me. That's okay, I can take it. This is from Lynn. Advice for when 6-year-old yells at both parents to shut up when they are mad. You got to work on your leadership skills. That says you are not a leader, okay? You're probably the pleaser parent. So yeah, work on your leadership skills. That would never happen if you're a leader. It's all about you. Their behavior is a direct result of your parenting. So that shut up means, hey, wait a minute. Ooh, they just said to shut up. I better work on my leadership skills. It's all you. Remember, we're not fixing kids. Their behavior is a direct reflection of your parenting. That's all it is. Now, I got respect with hundreds of kids I was working with. Was it them or was it me? I never got easy kids to work with either. They were all the ones who were telling their parents to shut up. I managed to get respect with all of them. Was it them or was it me? Was it my leadership? Or did I just luck out that one day that I got? You know what I'm saying? It's you. They are just following your lead or lack of it. Work on your leadership skills. Check out my boot camp course. If you're really next level and you're going crazy, you might want to look at coaching. That's the next level up. So it's behavior boards free. Then the boot camp course is not free, and I'm more expensive than obviously one-on-one. I can't take everyone on anymore. I'm really busy, but you could look into coaching if you're interested. Oh God. I got a real opinion on this one. My 6-year-old lost it in dance class. Teacher came to me. Should they have gotten me to calm her? You know what they're saying? We can't have one child ruining the whole class. Can you please take your child away so that I can continue with the rest of the kids? It's not their job to deal with your child's behavior. That's your job. So yeah, it is your job to deal with your child's behavior. It's not their job. If you're there, yeah, that's what I would do for sure. Hey, look, it's not fair. All these other parents are paying money for this dance class too, which is being disrupted by your child. You're going to have to take your child out until they can control themselves. Absolutely. By 6 years old, for sure. Maybe not so much at 3, but at 6, oh yes, that's on you. You can't ruin the class for everybody else. Yeah. Boy, if my kid was doing that, like 6 years old, losing it in a class, I would be running into that class, tearing my kid out of there for sure. I wouldn't want it to ruin it for everybody else. Absolutely, that's on you. Um, the pediatrician. I thought pedicure person. Anyway, pediatrician keeps recommending a reward chart to stop thumb sucking at home. Would you not recommend that? Thumb sucking, I don't have a great view on that one. I don't know. It's a really difficult one. If the pediatrician recommends, it's not behavior, it's a habit. So a reward chart for not thumb sucking is a little bit different from behavior. It's just a little bit different. It's not attacking their personality. It's attacking a bad habit that they have. So it's a little bit different. And I'm never going to argue with a pediatrician. Any pointers on my 3-year-old who won't listen? They're not listening because you're not a leader. You lead, they will follow. They're not listening because you're not a leader. They don't respect you. That's all it is. Work on your leadership skills and they listen. Believe me, they listen. They respect you. They look up to you. They feel good about themselves when they're with you. Your goal as a leader is not to have obedient soldiers. That's ridiculous. Who'd want that? That's ridiculous. Your goal as a leader, as a parent, should be to have children who like themselves, who have high self-esteem. They're confident. They're problem solvers. And they have a voice. But they're also very respectful because you're a leader. You've taught them respect because you respect them. Now I'm getting sweaty. Okay. Advice for when your 6-year-old still whines, even when I ignore it. I would just say, I would imitate it and say, when you talk like this, I'm going to ignore that from now on. But when you talk nicely, I will answer you. The answer may still be no, but I will respond to you. But from now on, just make it like draw a line in the sand. I will not be responding to whining from now on. Although that's 6 years old, I'd be tempted to mimic them. If they were whining, I would go, I don't know. Why would you? I would be tempted to do that. Wouldn't do that with a little one, but 6, I'd probably do that. But I use a lot of humor with kids, and it's my style. If it's not your style and you're not comfortable with it, it won't work. But yeah, I tend to use a lot of that with kids. But I want that. And I'd say, so do I, but I can't have it either. And they're, ooh. Do you have a course that covers kids with ADHD? ADHD is not different. That's all the kids I work with. That's where I learned all this, was all those kids with ADHD. All the challenging kids. That's where I learned all this. Autism's different. ADHD, that's where I learned all this stuff. So everything I'm talking about, it's for kids with ADHD and kids without it. They're no different. They just take a little bit more patience and time sometimes. It's not the attention deficit part so much. That's not the problem because it's very clear directions that I do. It's more the hyperactivity. Someone said to me once, they said, the H does not stand for hyperactive. That's exactly what it stands for. They said they have an ADHD child, and they said the H does not stand for hyperactivity. That's exactly what it stands for. I actually asked, I was working with a pediatrician, and they said that's exactly what it stands for. So I don't know what they were talking about. It just struck me as funny. I don't hate you for saying that. We know we need help with being a leader parents. Yeah, it's okay. I'm quite happy if people hate me because if I'm getting my message across, I'd rather be hated and help you than be loved and not provide you any help. Does that make any sense? Yeah, what you think of me means nothing to me. I want to help you. I want you to get results. I want you to love parenting. I want you to be a fun parent, and I want you and your kids to be laughing all the time and have a great time. That's my goal for you. Never would cross my mind to worry about what you think about me at all. I'm here to get you great results. That's all. I'm obsessed with it, especially in coaching. I get obsessed with it. Because I know I can do it. I know I can help you. So, and I know the end result. I know the rainbow. I know what it feels like to have kids who respect you. I know how much fun it is. Anyone can learn this. Help with 12-year-old daughter dealing with a mean girl in her class. She excludes my daughter and rolls her eyes when my daughter tries to join a group. So she's a bully. She's what you call a passive bully. But yeah, that's bullying behavior. Your daughter's got to learn how to spread herself thin. Like she's got to have other friends. It's the only way. You're never going to change that mean girl. That's the problem, is you're never going to change them. So, and that's what people try and do. How do I change other people? You don't. She's going to have to spread herself out more. The problem is school is a very tiny pool, especially in the younger grades when they're in the same class for all of their subjects. In high school, they've got different pools to pick from, different classes with different teachers and that. So, but yeah, it's tough. It's just tough. Get her out in the world, get her more confident so that friend won't do that. So get her out in the world in other things outside of school, so she'll get more confidence. But sometimes they just have to put up with that stuff. That's part of life. Like sometimes if the pool is very tiny, there are no other options. That's the only friend group that she could possibly have, because that's the leader and all the girls in that classroom. Yeah, they're just going to have to put up with it. It's just going to be a real bad year. And that's part of life too. We've all had that. Oh, should I say this out loud? No, it's too much. There might be kids watching. But I remember a girl in high school said something real snotty to me once. It made her look horrible, but she didn't get it. She said she was trying to bully me. But yeah, it's basically because I wasn't loose enough that there was I had a problem because I wasn't with all the boys, if you know what I mean, like she was. I remember thinking, that's an insult or a compliment? But she didn't get it. She thought she was really popular. She was, but not in the way I'd want to be. Struck me as funny. Pointers on dealing with grandparents who are not on the same page regarding discipline and backs the child up and say, okay, if you've got a grandparent or anybody else undermining your parenting, this is what you say. Will it work? I don't know, because I don't know how pushy their personalities are. But if someone said this to me, I would back right off. I would be embarrassed. But what you say to them is, you say to them, look, when you undermine my parenting, it hurts my feelings. What can they say to that? So in other words, every time they undermine your parenting, they know they're hurting your feelings. See what I mean? It puts them in a very awkward position. So yeah, there's not much you can do about bossy know-it-alls anyway. It's a personality trait. Comes from insecurity, by the way. Anyone has to push their ways on other people, it's because of their own insecurities. But it doesn't make them any less annoying. That's the problem. Okay. 3.5-year-old boy is strong-willed, yells, throws stuff, doesn't like being told what to do. Okay. Work on your leadership skills. That's all it is. Unless he's got some special challenge that I've never heard of before. But yeah, it's your lead. You lead, they will follow. Their behavior between the ages of 3, especially 3.5, even 3, I'll give them a bit of a pass for 6 months. 3 to 12 years old, their behavior is a direct result of your parenting. It just is. You lead, they will follow, good or bad. So yeah, if you're wishy-washy, inconsistent, trying to please them all the time, if you get upset when they get upset, yeah, that's going to cause problems. So yeah, just leadership. It's everything. It's everything. I know everyone wants me to fix their kids. I don't do that. Why would I do that? They're not broken. They're just a reflection of your parenting. That's all it is. Kids only do what works. If being respectful works, that's all they're going to do. That's what a leader does for children. Plus, if they're acting out, their self-esteem is in the toilet. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. So you're not doing kids any favor by allowing them to act like that. You're doing them a real disservice. Every child deserves to have a leader as a parent. And I can teach you that. Just check out the behavior board. It's free. Lots of people get tons, like great results just from using the behavior board. That's free. You can check that out. The course, the boot camp course, that's the next level. Coaching is the top level. But I'm here, and I'm here. This is all free. I don't charge for this. I've signed up for the sleep course, but I'm unable to log into the course. I've emailed in response to acknowledge my register and don't hear back. Yeah, okay, the sleep course. It's never once has not been this reason. You put your email in incorrectly. Every single time. They put like .con or .com. Every single time a parent has not been able to gain access is because they put their email in incorrectly. I could be wrong. Send me another email and put down bedtime course in all caps in the subject line. I've got so many emails, I just don't have a chance to get to them all. It was either answer all the emails or do this live. So, but yeah. Could be another reason, but every time someone says, I can't get access to my course, it's been because they put their email in wrong. 6-year-old that whines even when ignored. You already asked that, didn't you? I don't know why they're whining at 6. It must be they only do what works past the age of 3.5 to 4. Why is that? Why is there a payoff for whining? Are you meeting their needs? Maybe you're not meeting their needs. If you're not meeting their need, managing their wants is the discipline, but you got to meet their needs. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. I would have to assess why they're whining. Because at 6 years old, they shouldn't be whining at 6 years old. They should be whining maybe at 2 and then give it up by 3 because they realize it doesn't work. Shoot, what time? Okay, good. I was worried I was going to be late. My son loses his mind over very small things as an ADHD kid. Well, that's what I'm talking about here. But ADHD, just normal kids, ADHD, well, ADHDs, they're normal kids too. Those are all the kids I learned all this with. I didn't learn much with my own kids. I already had so much experience with kids before I had my own, and mine didn't have any challenges, really. My son had tantrums, but that was it. But yeah, I learned all this with kids with ADHD, so it's all the same stuff. Do you have any advice or courses for kids that are neurodivergent? That's all, everything I'm talking about. That's the boot camp course. Check that out. Okay. I'm going to answer your question, and it's going to make perfect sense when I do. It's a good idea. Someone on YouTube said, have ever thought about doing some sort of closed Facebook group with the people that you coach and previously coached parents? Do you have any idea how much time a Facebook group takes to run? Do you have any idea how little time I have? And yeah, I don't have time for that. It would be great. It would be great, but I simply do not have time. Facebook groups are huge, huge amount of work. Anyone who's run one knows. Yeah, they're huge because they always have questions and they're always sending messages to the administrator, and yeah, it's a disaster. I did have one. I ran a course for people who went through my boot camp course. They helped me make it. And then I said, okay, here's a group, Facebook group. You guys can just chat amongst yourselves. I haven't even looked at it in like months. But it tends to die out if the administrator isn't heavily involved. So yeah, there's just too much work. There's a lot of things on my plate before I would even consider. I don't know if I'd ever do that, actually. It's just so much work. I want to write a book. I want to get a podcast one day. I do want to get group coaching going. So those are all way more important than a Facebook group. It's a great idea, though. Yeah, well, they're a huge amount of work. Anyone I know who's run one says, beware. Oops, I got to scroll ahead because people come and go. Oh my goodness, I got so many I'm missing. Yeah, I have to scroll ahead because people come and go, so I don't want to answer questions if people have already left. Hey, my boy's 4. He's throwing raging tantrums. What am I doing wrong? Do I pop him in the mouth? Do I scream? Do I ignore? He will just sit there and scream and cry. Check out my boot camp course. It goes into how you handle tantrums and everything else. If he's still having tantrums at 4, he should be over them by now. So, if you're a leader, you will be. So check out the boot camp. I know I keep directing everyone there, but it's just I can't possibly give you all the information just on a quick little live here. But yeah, I don't know what you're missing. I don't know what you're not doing or what you were doing wrong. I don't know. But you'll find that out. Usually people figure it out pretty quick when they do the course. They go, oh, I shouldn't have been doing that. Oh, I should have been doing, you know what I mean? Like it's a whole program. And also, if you're going to take parenting advice from someone, these are 2 things I'd look for. These are the 2 criteria. If you're going to read a book on parenting or buy a course on parenting or even watch anyone for parenting advice, you make sure that person has finished the job. Have they lived with teenagers? Do they know how to finish the job with their own kids? A lot of what's taught out there backfires in the teen years big time. They wouldn't even guess it, but it does. So they have to have finished the job with their own kids, lived with teenagers. And the other one is they have to have had experience with hundreds of other kids. How could you possibly teach parenting if you haven't worked with hundreds of kids with all sorts of challenges? It's experience-based. Yeah, because I know there's probably people out there who just have little kids and they're teaching parenting. That's like taking financial advice from someone with $10 in the bank. It doesn't make any sense at all. I'm sure and I want you to get the best advice you can. So make sure that whoever it's me or someone else, they have to finish the job with their own kids and have worked with hundreds of other kids with all sorts of challenges. I've worked in hospitals, facilities for severely disabled children, detention centers, psych wards, schools, daycare centers. I've been everywhere. I've seen it all. Of course, I've never seen it all, but I mean, I've seen a lot. So make sure it is heavily experience-based. But it frustrates me because I know people that oftentimes, I'm sure I don't look at what anyone else is doing. People tell me this, right? So I purposely do not look at what anyone else out. I don't know anyone else out there teaching parenting. Why would I? Like, I've never read a book on parenting or kids. I teach through experience and I stay in my own lane. I'm very careful. So if I'm criticizing something, I'm not criticizing anyone, right? I'm very careful about that. Anyway, but I know there's a lot of people out there teaching parenting and all they have is two little easy children. Well, this is how you manage a tantrum. You just say you shouldn't do that. This is what parents tell me that they've actually seen this. If it's a full-blown tantrum, would that work? Absolutely not. It's ridiculous. But yeah, it's almost like more of a form of bragging than actually helping people. It's like how easy my kids are. See, it's all I have to do. It frustrates me because it makes other parents feel bad. If you're struggling with a screaming, raging toddler who's tantruming all the time, and then you watch these perfect mothers who have the easiest little kids in the world, how are you going to feel about yourself? Probably like crap, right? That's what bothers me about it. Because I don't want you to feel bad. I want you to feel empowered. 10-year-old recently has a very smart mouth and doesn't understand when I tell him that it's not acceptable. Why would you say it's not acceptable? Why would you say that? Does it make any sense? Is he gonna go, you're right, it's not acceptable? That's an absolute waste of words and it makes you look weak. I would never say that. I just wouldn't. Yeah. Check out my boot camp course. Again, sorry about that, but check out the boot camp course. I never address attitude. If a kid has a bad attitude, I look in a mirror. What am I doing wrong? Why am I not earning their respect? It's all you. It's not your kid. It's you. So if he doesn't respect you, don't tell him that's not acceptable. Look in the mirror and say, I'm not acceptable as a parent right now. I got to fix it up. I'm going to fix myself up because it's all you. All of it. It's you. Isn't that good news though? That means you can fix it. You can't fix other people, even kids. You can only fix yourself, right? When I work with parents, you think I'm mean here, you should see me in coaching. I'm very, like, to say it like it is. And parents, once they get it and they click, they are so receptive to this. They go, it's working. They get it. I'm trying to shake you up here and telling you, it's not your kids, it's you. And you can change you. You do the best you know how. I'm teaching you a better way. Hopefully, I don't know. I think it's a better way. But when I'm coaching people, they always go, oh, I get it. It's me. Yeah. That's all I ever talk about. It's you. I don't teach anything but parenting. I don't teach kidding. I don't teach teenagering. I don't teach toddlering. They all know how to do that. They're just reflecting you. Their behavior is reflecting you, basically. 30 to 12 years old, certainly. Teenagers, not as much. Teenagers is my favorite age. Actually, that's my specialty, is troubled teenagers. When you know how to deal with teenagers, they're a piece of cake. I've never been hired by a youth worker. I've been hired by pediatricians, child psychologists, principals, teachers, daycare workers. I've never been hired by a youth worker. Do you know why? They deal with troubled teenagers. If you can get respect with a troubled teenager, you don't need my help. That's the PhD in all this. That's the height of, oh, you get it. You know how to give respect to get it. It's not pandering to them. It's not catering to them at all. It's knowing how to talk to them with respect to get it. But yeah, it's all you. You have so much more power. Parents are always relinquishing their power. We got this kid, he's so feisty. What do? Work on yourself. Yeah, coaching, that's my favorite thing to do because parents, I think the reason is because, not just, it sounds wrong, but they've paid me good money to learn and they're very receptive to this. Because once you've committed that money to me, and we're working together, you're receptive. You're listening, right? You get it. You're at your wit's end and you're ready. And that's the results that I get with my clients. It's just the most rewarding thing because they're receptive to it. You gotta be willing to look in the mirror and blame yourself, take responsibility for your child's behavior. I can't help you if you're not willing to do that. How on earth can I help you if you're blaming your child? Doesn't make any sense at all. I was working with kids, and if they acted out with me, troubled teens even, if they acted out when I was mentoring them or whatever, I blame myself. I'm not a good enough mentor. What am I doing wrong? These are long-term troubled children, and if they disrespected me, I blame myself. What am I doing? What am I missing here? What am I doing wrong? That's how you get results. You look at yourself and think, what am I doing wrong here? What can I do better? There's no shame in this. It's just learning. It's like any skill. It's learning. Are you ashamed that you don't know how to windsurf? No, if you've never done it before, right? It's the same thing. You're falling off the board because you don't know how to do it yet. You haven't learned how to do it yet. It's like that. Are you ashamed that you can't fly a helicopter? If you've never flown a helicopter, how would you know? If you've never parented before and you got these kids, why do you expect why do you expect it to come naturally? It's a skill. Anyone can learn it. Okay, enough about that. Okay. Is screen time really that bad? No, I don't think so at all. It's like that people used to ask, is rock and roll really bad for kids? There's always something in every generation. Like I remember years and years ago, well, obviously a long time ago, Elvis Presley first came out and oh my God, they tried to put him in jail for ruining their daughters. So it's like screen time. It's kind of like Elvis Presley. There's always something that all parents are afraid of. Used to be Elvis Presley, and now it's screens. No, there's nothing wrong with any of that stuff. Okay, it's very woke. I try and stay away from political stuff, but I'm going to read this out anyway and tell you, I'll be very careful here. I have opinions on it, but I'll be very careful. Would you mind sharing any opinion on young teens trying to stubbornly change their identity or experiment with gender changes? I think they're way too young, but it's so difficult to get through. Here's the thing. I've got to be very careful with this. I'm very respectful of children who are confused about their identity. I'm very respectful. Unfortunately, being confused about your identity is very trendy too. So a lot of them, I would go along with it. And obviously, I would just go along with it. I wouldn't fight it because that's part of the excitement for them. It's usually the kids who are a little bit more, they're often less popular. It's a trendy thing to do right now, or they could truly be transgender. You got to be careful with that. There's no way I would want to shame them. So that's why I would go along with it. I just would. I'm not going to risk it. I'm not going to risk saying, well, that's ridiculous, or I know you're not like that. I wouldn't say that because what if they are transgender? I've worked with kids who are transgender. So yeah, I wouldn't want to you can mess them up. So yeah, just go with it. Yeah, I was just going on about the Facebook group. Oh shoot, I gotta go. I gotta go to TikTok. If you want to join me over there, it's Bratbusters Parenting. I'm 2 minutes late, so I gotta run. Happy parenting. Bye now. TikTok runs ads as soon as you turn it on now. They didn't used to do that. And that one was louder than normal, so it's annoying. Yeah, and the problem with the Facebook group too is if my name was on it, I wouldn't want misinformation on it. It would bother me. I would always want to go in there and check it. If I put my name on it and said that this is Bratbusters Facebook group, and like when I did that closed one with that group of parents, I told them, I said, I won't be involved in it. And but yeah, I'm very protective of my messages. So, and every so often, like even in comments, sometimes people will misquote me. Like someone will ask a question and someone will answer it wrong. And they mean well, but I'm very fussy about all this. That's why I don't let anyone else handle any of this stuff. Do you ever offer discounts for your courses? I do. I had the Black Friday was the last one. I won't do it a lot. They're very fairly priced. So yeah. How do I teach my 2-year-old to play independently? Some are more independent than others. My son was really independent. My daughter wasn't. I'll tell you the difference between them. I made all their clothes and I had a separate sewing room and I put a gate up. This was my son. He would be outside of the gate right there talking to me, playing happily. My daughter would sit like at the gate like this, just with a sad face. She was the sweetest little thing, so easy, but she wanted to be right beside me all the time. She would just hang onto the bars of the gate like this. Wouldn't even play. She's 2 feet away from me. You know what I did? I had to take the gate down. I let her in the sewing room, and she sat right on my foot, happily playing, 2 feet away. So they're all different. But what you can do is you can get independent play is a really difficult thing for kids who just want to be with you all the time. They're only little once, so it's not a big deal. But yeah, start playing with them and then say, "Ooh, I'm just going to go get dinner started," and then just don't go back and see how long it lasts. But yeah, they're tiny for such a short amount of time. How can I learn discipline as an adult if I was never taught as a child? How can you learn? Well, you mean disciplining your kids or self-discipline yourself? Usually society teaches you that. If you don't pay your taxes, you can get in trouble. If you don't pay your rent, you can get in trouble. Consequences are everywhere. They're following us everywhere. So, yeah. Self-discipline. Yeah, I don't teach that. I don't teach adult stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah. Just look it up. YouTube's full. I go to YouTube for everything. I don't Google anything. I YouTube everything because I'm a video person. My 9-year-old son is disorganized and forgetful because he's always in his bubble. Any tips? I don't quite know what you mean by that. Yeah, that's kind of your job to teach him how to be organized. So just put down time limits. Say you have to be ready for school by a certain time. If not, there's a consequence. Consequences, don't make it a big deal. Say if you're not ready in time, then you have to do the dishes after dinner or something like that. Anyway, check out the behavior board. It explains all that. He's always in his fantasy world. Well, he's got an imagination. He's creative. But the thing is, he can pull himself out of that if there's going to be a consequence. See, if he's always running late for school or something, that he has to. It's like you want him to learn how to get to work on time too one day. So yeah, you want to teach him about, your fantasy, being creative. It's wonderful. But you've also got responsibilities. You got to go to school. You got to go to bed. You know what I mean? What to do when your almost 3-year-old spits at you. If they're almost 3, I'd put that on the behavior board. Put no spitting, and then there's a consequence. It just says to me you're not a leader. You got to work on that, okay? Work on your leadership skills. That whole boot camp course is not about your kids at all. It's all about you. It's all about your leadership. Because remember, we're not fixing kids. We're teaching parents here. I just did a big speech on that on Instagram. So passionate about this stuff. Yeah, I went on and on and on about that. Is that parents are so quick to blame their kids for all their bad behavior, but that's just a reflection of your parenting. They're acting out because of your parenting. But your parents don't see it that way. I don't know why. Like whenever I see kids acting out in public, instantly I look at the parents. I'm just curious to see what they're going to do. I never blame the kids for that. It's always, oh, look at that kid, how throwing sand in the other kids' faces. I instantly look around for the parents. I want to see what they're going to do because that is a direct reflection of the parenting. So yeah, look in a mirror, fix yourself, teach yourself. This is a learnable skill. I teach leadership. It's learnable. The behavior board, like I never would have used a behavior board. I'm level 10 with what I teach because I started at 11 years old volunteering in daycare centers. I learned this really, I just always was interested in this stuff. I just always found kids fascinating because we were all a kid at one time. Whenever I'm dealing with parents and we're dealing with a certain age, I literally can imagine, I can remember what 5 felt like. I can remember what 3 felt like, not so much 2, but I can remember what 7 felt like. I can literally, because I equate it to the grades too. And I can literally go back and remember how I felt at that age. So it helps me. I've always been like this. I always found kids fascinating. So yeah, but you don't need to do all that. You don't need to put in 53 years like I have working with kids. I can teach you what a lot of it. Anyway, the behavior board's a teaching tool. I wouldn't have used one because I'm level 10 with what I teach, but it's a teaching tool. It's like the first behavior board is level 1. Then you go level 2, 3, So anyone can learn this. It's a learnable skill. It's leadership parenting. When I'm coaching, oh my God, I love coaching. I love it because you get this broken parent at the start in the first session. And then by the 3rd, 4th, 5th session, they're empowered, they're confident. It's a whole different body language. You can just see it. They just feel so proud of themselves. And yes, anyone can learn this. I had this one mom. I often tell this story. And she was, I'd never had a client like her before. She was, was really struggling with her kids. So anyway, the first 2 sessions, and I normally would confront people on this. I'd normally say, come on, ask questions. I need your feedback. I don't know why I didn't. She just did this the whole time in sessions, the first 2 weeks. She just kept looking up and down, looking up and down, never said anything, never asked a question, not once. Anyway, week 3 came along, and then she turned up like this. And I said, what? And she goes, it's working. I said, what are you talking about? And she goes, she showed me. She wrote down everything I said. Never analyzed it, never asked a question. She wrote down everything I said, and she just did it. Isn't that neat? Like, I've never had anyone do that before. I would never learn like that. I need to ask a million questions, and it takes me ages to learn something. She just wrote it all down and did it. That was interesting. She evidently loves education. She's got all sorts of degrees, and she just loves learning. So she's a very good study. That's what she told me. She's a good study. But yeah, I loved her. She was just fascinating because my mind is so different from hers. Like I lead with emotions. She leads with her head. I lead with my heart. Like she just thinks things through and just, I found that fascinating. So yeah, she learned it. She killed it. She just did great. Isn't that interesting though, eh? I never forgot that. That was probably a year or 2 ago. And if you're on here now, I love that. It was wonderful. It was a really good experience for me too, someone just absorbed all the information and applied everything and how well it worked. So. Okay, what do you think about constant gaming with preteens or any age, basically? You should have a media management system set up. And this is how I do it. There's 3 different ways of managing screen time or media. So what you do, the first one is you have an allotted amount of time each day. So you can have an hour a day or whatever. And then the second one is that you have an allotted time period each day. So from 7 to 8 every night or something, they can go on screens. I don't like either one of those because you have to micromanage that sort of, or I just don't like it. I would rather you say, okay, you got 10 hours a week or 5 hours a week or whatever it is. I don't know. You decide that. That's your call. There is no set idea of how many it should be. So you say, okay, so you've got 10 hours a week, let's say as an example. Then you manage it. So you can only have 10 hours of screen time. That does not include family movie night or homework time. But if they're doing homework on their computer, you look at that screen. Make sure they're doing it so you can see the screen. I could tell you stories about what kids are looking up when the parents can't see the screen. Anyway, you have to be able to see the screen. So they can use screens for homework and family movie night. Every other time, it's on that chart. So you have like 10 hours, you break it down into 600 minutes, and you keep track of the time. Okay, but you're not telling them when to do it. Because what'll happen is they don't believe you. Because usually if people hire me, it's because their kids are, in charge, right? So the kids don't believe that they're going to follow through with this stuff, and it's a real eye opener that first week, I'll tell you. Anyway, so if the parents follow through, but anyway, so you keep track of all the minutes, and then sometimes the kids will use up all their screen time by Wednesday or Thursday, so they'll binge, right? And then they've got no screens Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and boy, it's ugly. But do you think they don't learn? Oh, they all learn. So it's one of my favorite ones. And then also they can have pride in managing their own screen time. And obviously it can only be like, it can't be at 2 o'clock in the morning. It has to be a certain allotted time. You say, well, no screens after 9 or whatever it is. So they are managing when they go on it, but you have they can't go on it at any time they want. So yeah, that's my favorite way of managing that. Having them manage it. The more responsibilities you give your kids, but you're there for backup, the more responsibilities you give your kids, the better. Like my kids were self-disciplining from about 3.5. I didn't have to discipline them anymore. If they did something wrong, they would say, oh, I forgot to do that, Mommy. How about no TV tonight? And I'd say, that's too much. Just brush my hair for 5 minutes. So that's kind of how it went in our house. Because I was obviously I teach this. I was a leader. So they kind of understood that from a very young age. I put in the work though. I earned that. I earned that respect. It doesn't get handed to you. It's not in a silver platter. What are your credentials? I just answered this in the last one. No one ever asked me that anymore, but I love talking about it. I started in 1971. I was 11, and I started volunteering in daycare centers. And I just always was able to get the best out of kids. And the daycare ladies used to say, how do you do that? They listen to you, they're well-behaved, and they want to be with you all the time. I kind of always just had this thing. I was kind of good at this, I guess. But anyway, I'm lousy at a whole bunch of things, but I always just understood kids, and I like them. I know how to have fun with them. Anyway, I was 20 years old, decided I wanted to be a child psychologist. After 1 week, they kicked me out because I asked too many questions. What they were teaching was garbage. It was very holier than thou, very patronizing, outsmarting kids. That was 40 years ago. I'm sure they've improved it by now, obviously, but I hated it. And all the other students were coming to me and asking me questions about kids. I always kind of just got it. I just got it. Anyway, thank God I never became a child psychologist. A lot of my clients are child psychologists because parenting is my thing. I'm that one-on-one parenting. I'm very demonstrative, it's personal. Parenting is personal. I didn't want the institution, the business stuff with kids, which is what child psychology is. That's what teaching is. I want the personal stuff. That's why I mentored so many kids. That's like mothering them. So I like the maternal mothering stuff. That was my specialty. Parenting, that's my specialty. There is no PhD in that. I wish there was. But yeah, there's no PhD for parenting. Yeah, and a lot of people with PhDs with child development or whatever, they still struggle with parenting because it's personal. It's different. It's just different. But I couldn't do that. Like I couldn't teach. I couldn't child psychology. I couldn't do any of that because that's business. I don't like that. It's not my thing. I like the personal. So I don't have any credentials. It's just experience based. And the troubled teens I worked with, they're the ones who said, you got to teach this stuff, Lisa. No one's ever talked to us like you do. So they're the ones who kind of, I didn't even think about that. They said, you got to teach this. And I said, teach what? And they said, how you make us feel. Oh, I never even thought there was no teaching out there, parent coaching. This was like 30 years ago, probably. Yeah, about that. Yeah. Anyway, okay. So those are my lack of credentials. Thank God I never got them. Child psychology. I would have been under that umbrella and I would have been held to that. Whereas now I can say whatever I want, right? Uh-oh. Okay, I want to read what Gabriella said. I want to see the first part of your, okay, my son is 2. Oh, 2, okay. I thought you were going to say 12 and they're having regressive behaviors. My son is 2 and I'm a 9-month-old. Could it be that he wants my attention? Yeah. 2-year-olds are going to go nuts. You get a new kid and the other baby's starting to come out of their shell and getting more attention. Yeah, they're going to regret. They might even, start wetting themselves again if they're already potty trained. They might want the bottle instead. But you know what? It's all such short-term stuff. Yeah, you'll just start figuring them out and then they'll go on to another stage. They're just 2. They're just crazy. They're just forming. So don't overthink it. Yeah, they will regress. Not all of them. Some of them will. What's your view on sleep training and the shaming that happens with crying it out? Who's shamed? What do you care what other people think? Don't worry about that. I did sleep training with both my kids. My daughter was very quick. My son, or maybe it's just because it was so traumatic with my son because it was the first time I did it. I think he was about 10 months old. And I decided that's it. Because he'd get up in the middle of the night and you just want to play anyway. So I'd put him on the boob and he'd just be looking at me like chatting away. And I thought, this is ridiculous. I don't want to get up at 2 in the morning and have a little play session with him. So anyway, I did the sleep training. It was awful. And I put him in bed and then he'd start to cry. And then I'd shut the door. I'd go sit outside his door and I'd sit there and cry up against his door. I had a pillow over my face so he couldn't hear me sobbing. It was awful. It was only one night though, and he never woke up again. So it was just one night. Yeah, I hated it. Because I don't like letting babies cry. I always say with kids or children, you meet their needs and manage their wants. With babies, you meet their needs and you meet their wants. If they cry, they want to be picked up, I pick them up. So it went against everything I kind of believed in with babies, but I just didn't think he needed to be getting up anymore. It was only one bad night. It was probably better for him anyway that he ended up sleeping through the night. But yeah, don't worry about other people shaming you. If you know you're doing the right thing. I wouldn't worry about that. I don't care what anyone else thinks about what I'm doing. Yeah, don't worry. If you're confident in what you're doing, I could care less what people think. So yeah, once you're confident with it. How to develop patience. It comes along with leadership because leadership works. And when things start to work, you get patient. Makes sense, right? It gets easier. So yeah, work on your leadership skills. The kids will start to respect you because you give respect to get it. And I don't feel like telling the story right now, but check out the pool story. That is my absolute favorite video. I think I did it a couple of weeks ago, and it was Example of Leadership Parenting was the name of the video. And it's the pool story. And look it up. I just don't feel like telling it right now. I tell it all the time. And it's the absolute best example of leadership parenting. It wasn't my kid, though. It was someone else's kid, but it's the same thing. The bottom line is you deal with bad behavior, but you focus on the good kid. That's what it's all based on. You want to focus on the good kid. Where you put your focus and your energy is what grows. I don't ignore any bad behavior. I deal with it, but it's quick. That was stupid. You shouldn't have done that. Here's the consequence. Anyway, do you want to play a game? Doesn't bother kids that you said that was stupid or anything. No, that matters to them because they know that they feel good about themselves, right? I use a lot of humor with kids anyway. I probably shouldn't tell you this. I tell a lot in coaching that I don't talk about here. But I was working with a teenager. I actually don't remember which one I said this to, but anyway, I knew this kid had a sense of humor. So I said to him, he was one of the troubled teens I worked with, and I was trying to bond with him, and he was just awful. I couldn't find anything to like about him. So I said, look, I got to find something to like. And I said, I can't find anything. You're quite repugnant. And he laughed. And that was, oh, you got a sense of humor. I can work with that. So humor helps. It's my basic nature anyway. I'm very goofy. If it's not your basic nature, it probably won't work. It could come across wrong. But yeah, I use humor a lot with kids. It works beautifully. Kids, their love language is play and fun with children. With teenagers, it's usually humor. So that's their love language. They feel like you really like them. You really like being with them. If you're fun, you're funny. And yeah, they're usually pretty receptive to that. How do you deal with temper tantrums? Check out my, what's it called? Tantrum busting? Yeah, tantrum busting course. It's one of my mini toddler courses. It's in the, I don't know why I keep pointing. I'm just pointing at my nose. Anyway, check above there. It's in the bio and it's the link. It's only one link. It takes you to everything I have. It's called Tantrum Busting Course. It's one of my mini toddler courses. It goes through all the steps and how you effectively ignore a tantrum. You're still right there. You don't use a phone or anything. I think that's rude. You're still there, but you're ignoring them. But it's important that they know that you're just like you're waiting for a bus. You're waiting for that tantrum to end. As soon as it's over, do you want to play a game? So you ignore the crazy, and then as soon as it's over, you reward the calm. You got to be quick, though. Anyway, that's sort of how it's done. Ignore the crazy, reward the calm. Would you recommend sleep training? I don't recommend it. I did it, but I hate it. I can't stand it. I think it's mean and horrible that I did it. Would I do it again? Yep. So it's one of those things that I don't think there's a better way, though. If you want them to sleep through the night, how else are you going to do it unless you let them cry? But do I like it? No, I hate it. I just cried myself. Oh, silly. I hated it. What if it's in public, a tantrum? If you're a different parent out in public, they're going to be worse out in public. See, I deal with the exact same way. If it's disturbing people, like I wouldn't let a kid have a tantrum in church or in a restaurant. I would drag them out to the car or in the parking lot, and then I'd ignore them there. And I wouldn't talk to them when I dragged them out either. I just drag them out and put them in the car, and then I just stand there ignoring them. So yeah, if you're embarrassed to effectively deal with your children out in public, they're going to pick up on that. You got to be consistent everywhere you go. But if you're going to discipline a child, like when they get older, with little ones, it has to be right in the moment. But when they're 3 and above, if they do something you don't like out in public, I would say to them, look, I didn't like that. When we get home, we'll deal with it. So you're still addressing it, but you're not handing out the consequence until you get home. What do you do when a kid gets out of car seats? I would pull over as soon as possible, and I would find something that you can put on there. There are guards that you can put on child seats that can prevent them from getting to them. It's something that locks over. That's like an armor plate, or not an armor plate, but it's like a plate that goes over the whole thing. I've seen it, but I don't know what it's called. But look it up. It's child-proofing car seat belt. But yeah, I would pull over right away. Do you give examples of consequences in the course? Yeah, all different ages. I have examples if a 3-year-old hits his little sister or something like that, or if a 12-year-old tells you to, F off or something. So yeah, I have examples of it. Like to fluff off. Some of the language, I'll tell you. Well, obviously I can't say it. But little wee kids are coming up with these horrendous words. The parents are just devastated. And I said, yeah, I've heard it all before. Yeah, it's funny. I'm going to tell this story again. It was the cutest story. I was just last week dealing with this family, and they were so cute. They're a really nice couple. And they have this 8-year-old little girl, and they kept saying she's very clever. And every parent says that, right? She's very clever. Yeah, she is. I've never heard this before. Anyway, she decided she didn't like the behavior board anymore, and she knew they'd hired me, this woman, right, to be better parents for her. So anyway, she said to them, you're great parents. You don't need that woman anymore. And she tore the behavior board off the wall. She buttered them up to get rid of the behavior board. She said it like just as sweet as anything, too. I love that. I thought, how clever. Anyway, the behavior board went right back up. Parents are doing a great job. I thought that was the cutest thing. That was one of the funniest things I've heard in a long time. I thought that was adorable. Do you do one-on-one coaching? Yeah, I'm a parenting coach. I can't take everyone on. Some days I can take people on, some days I can't. Some weeks I can, some weeks I can't. Depends on how busy I am. I only take new clients on if I can take you on in the next week. In a week after you get all the forms back to me, because you have to fill out some forms. Plus, if I think, tell me why you want to hire me too. If I think all you need is a course, like I've got the boot camp course, I'll try and send you there, just because I am really busy right now. So coaching is my favorite thing to do. I love it because I feel like I have a lot of maternal stuff in me, and my kids are grown. So I feel like I'm mothering you in coaching, and because you're all like my kids' age now. So I'm in my 60s, and most of my clients are in their 30s and 40s. And if I don't get back to you, you're in a queue. Like I answer emails when they come in. Like I just haven't had a chance to answer them all. But if you're in crisis, and when I say crisis, I specialize in teen crisis work. Or any crisis work actually, if you're in crisis, put that in the subject line. You'll be my first priority. Crisis is not a 4-year-old having a tantrum every day. Crisis is usually life and death, really damaging stuff. So put that in the subject line. I'll always take you on if you're in crisis. So yeah, no matter what's going on. And I will actually cancel appointments with other clients. I have a lot of clients I've worked with many times over the years because they got kids getting older in that too. So I'll actually ask them if I can. If I do that, if I ever ask you to give up a session for someone in crisis, I'll give you an extra session. So you won't lose out. I used to specialize in, that's how I started my business, was teen crisis work. And I remember I used to do a lot of TV and radio. And I remember the 6 o'clock news one night, really, I worked with them many times. They're really good people, but they introduced me as the crisis queen at the top of the news. And I thought, I don't want to be a queen for one thing. And I don't want to be labeled the crisis queen. I'd rather be the prevention person. I'd rather prevent all that. So yeah, I don't lead with that anymore, but I do it in coaching, but I don't lead with that anymore. I'd rather you never be in crisis, That's why I'm really happy I'm on here, social media, because when I was doing all that work before in the mainstream media, TV and radio and all that, it was more like older kids stuff, whereas now I'm getting you young. Like there's so many parents of toddlers on here, I can help you prevent all that work, which is really a better way to do it. But yeah. And the reason why I'll always do crisis work, even if I quit coaching, I'll still probably do crisis work, because teen crisis work especially, not many people do it. It's tough. If you're having problems with a teenager and you don't know where to turn, you can't afford to hire a coach, or you don't want to, try and look up youth workers. Phone a middle school and ask to talk to a youth worker there. They will have resources. They specialize in this stuff. And but yeah, they're wonderful. I've never been hired by a youth worker that I know of. I've been hired by tons of teachers, principals, child psychologists, daycare workers. I've never been hired by a youth worker. If you can get respect with a troubled teenager, you don't need my help. That's the PhD and all this stuff. But yeah, they're really good resources. Often youth workers had problems in their youth too, I've found out. So yeah, but yeah, they're usually really good at. They've got a lot of resources, a lot of connections. And they're free. You can call them up and ask their advice for free, like, where do I go for help? And when do I begin to discipline? Right at about 8 or 10 months. So if they hit you or hit someone, you just say no. And you never want to say no that makes them cry. You want to say no that they go like this. They look at you different. So you can start them, but it's really gentle. You never want to make them cry. It's really gentle. You're just letting them know you don't do that. And then you divert their attention to something else pretty quick. So yeah, it starts really young. I remember years ago, I was looking after, I don't know where I can't remember the situation, but there were two babies on a mat, and I can remember this. And one of them was a biter. It was biting the other baby's head. So I went over and I said, no. And this baby was about 8 months old. And I said, no. And I looked right at them really seriously. And they looked at me like that, the way they looked at me. And then they went to bite again. Then they looked at me and didn't bite. I was shocked at that. I thought, wow, 8 months old, they can learn. It doesn't mean they won't try again. But in that moment, they stopped themselves from doing it. I was shocked at that. So that was 8 months old. There you go. Anyway, I got to get going now. Thanks so much for joining me. I do these regularly scheduled lives twice a week, and I turn up pretty much every day unscheduled. And you never know when I'm going to turn up. I never know when I'm going to turn up. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me. You can check out my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my big boot camp course. So you can look into coaching. It's all in the link above. And I'll talk to you again tomorrow sometime. Thanks for joining me. Happy parenting.